Hi, y'all. I hope you're having a wonderful week. I am for sure, because my guest on the podcast today is the incredible founder of the LA Dream Center, Pastor Matthew Barnett. And I am so excited for you guys to hear his story about how he started the LA Dream Center. I guarantee you, it's not a story that you're expecting. The LA Dream Center is one of the most incredible ministries that I have ever gotten to witness. They feed thousands of people daily. They have so many rooms where the homeless can find refuge on the streets of LA. They have multiple rehabilitation programs. They are common fixtures on Skid Row, just helping the homeless and reaching out to those who are underprivileged and underserved. And I've got the founder of that Dream Center here on the podcast today. And you are going to be so encouraged by his story. And he's going to talk about what serving means in discovering our purpose. Enjoy the incredible Pastor Matthew Barnett.
Hello.
Oh, Pastor Matthew.
How are you?
Hi. Good to see you.
I'm sorry, I'm like 2 minutes late. I was doing a birthday video for my birthday tomorrow. So they're doing like a big...
It's your birthday tomorrow?
Yeah, so I just told them, I said, the video is basically $47 to support the housing programs of the Dream Center. Rather, I don't want anything for my birthday. My wife always tells me, like, what do you want? I'm like, nothing.
Right.
Just give it to the Dream Center.
Oh, of course you do. Oh,
what's up?
You have someone's
Pastor
crashing.
Matthew.
Someone's crashing.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you feeling, buddy?
Can you hear him
You
yet?
doing good?
I can't hear him. He's got to put his headphones in.
How does it work?
He knows how to work a mic, but not headphones.
Thank you, Clint. Clint's already working.
They're crashing
He's
my
awesome.
podcast.
I love you. Oh, it's great to see you guys.
We're not supposed to be a part of this podcast, but your birthday's tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
He was just saying that. Yep.
Okay. And so me and Clint wanted to tell you something. When Clint first came here, and he just started of course, talking about your dad and you and everything that he's learned and gleaned, and just how he wanted to build here to honor legacy.
Yeah.
And so we started talking about ways to do that. And we just passed it as a board on Tuesday. But every dollar that comes in the Dream Center, all our partners, the money that we're raising, we're going to send 10% to the Dream Center. So our 10% is coming to LA. So
oh my goodness, that's unbelievable, man! Wow, you guys are so remarkable. I'm so proud of you.
Aww.
Yeah,
the OG Dream Center.
The OG Dream Center.
Oh, you guys are going to do amazing things. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. You already are, but you know what I'm saying. You guys are in for a season of a lifetime.
Well, we're so honored, and we just are so blessed, even that you let Clinton come and bless that. And
man, yeah.
He's already been such a blessing, but we want to give back more than you gave. So happy birthday tomorrow.
Oh, thank you. That's great news, buddy.
I'll let you guys go.
I'm so thankful for you.
They just got back from COVID.
Oh,
So you'd be proud of them.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing good, man. It's pretty
Survivors.
brutal.
It was brutal.
Was it brutal?
It was
Like
a bad one.
twice as worse than the worst flu.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. 14 days I was out.
Oh, dear Jesus.
So
You feel
not
good now?
I'm back now. I'm ready to go.
Oh, good, man. Bless your heart.
Okay, I'll let you go. We
Thank
love
you. It just makes me feel so good to see you're so upbeat, joyful, and ready to go, though. I mean, that's great.
We're ready. We're ready. We love you.
Thank you. Love you guys.
See you guys.
It's great.
Clint just bought us all all of our staff wings for lunch.
Nice. Yeah, he doesn't take him long to find the food hotspots.
He's so sweet. Thank you so much for sending him.
Oh,
He's already
awesome.
been the hugest blessing. Our staff just loves him.
He knows how to make things happen, man. He does.
Yeah.
He really does. He's fantastic.
Oh my goodness. Our people are so stoked on the Dream Center. And they're rallying, especially after you were here a few months ago. And you gave the story and told the journey. And I want to dig in. And Dustin gave me your book, which I never read. I'm a reader. I'm like a crazy reader.
Okay.
And so I just started The Cause Within. It's
great. Awesome.
so good. It's so good. And I am not a dreamer. This is all side notes, but I'm not a dreamer innately. I don't know if it's because I'm married a dreamer, so I overcompensate by like, I don't know which one it is, but I started it and I was like, oh my goodness, like it was just so, it challenged me to dream again.
Oh, thank you.
and to really just find purpose and remember purpose or find new, all of it.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I get so bogged down in just we all do, but in everyday life,
Yeah, sure.
And I got kids, I got church, I got staff, I've got friends, I've got family, I've got, and I'm going to finish. I can't wait to finish it because I'm excited to just lift my eyes up a little bit. And I think your book's doing that.
Oh, it's so great. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. But I want to hear, a few things, a lot of it about finding purpose and your story there. I want to obviously hear LA Dream Center because not everybody was here at church when you spoke to hear the story behind it and the origin of it and your experiences on Skid Row. First of all, getting the dream and then the actualization of the dream and the journey.
Okay.
And the long journey in between. But first of all, you grew up in Arizona?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your family, how you grew up.
Yeah. I was raised in a mega church. My dad, I was actually born in Davenport, Iowa, and then my dad moved to Arizona to take over a church. And so I was 20 years of age. And, I came to LA, but most of my years were in Arizona. And growing up, it was interesting. I saw my dad build one of the largest churches in America back when nobody was building buildings like 7,000. I remember him walking through and saying, imagine what's going to happen. Imagine what you're going to see. And I was just a young kid that had a stuttering problem. And I was like,
wow,
I never thought I'd be in ministry because of what of the limitations. And so I just walked around and I had fun dreaming through my father and seeing what he was going to do, never thinking I'd be in ministry. And then I was just a faithful kid in the church, ran bus routes in the inner city of Phoenix and helped my dad every Sunday night bring in the homeless. And as a teenager, I would just
so your dad was already on top of this before the LA Dream Center ever even came to be.
He was a legend because, when he was a mega church, he lost a lot of people in his church because he brought in the homeless people to a Sunday night service and brought in like 500 people from the streets and they give them all haircuts before church. And so we would bust them in. And when Time Magazine ranked him the third largest church in America at one time, he lost a lot of people because they said, we don't want to bring those kind of people into our church.
Yep.
And I never forget that moment when, as a boy, I walked in and my dad had about 100 of his biggest donors saying, Pastor, we are a nationally recognized church. We don't need to be doing this anymore. It's going to hurt the growth of our church to bring these guys in. And my dad just wept. He said, guys, I love you. You've been with me and I appreciate all that you've done for us. But I can't give up on these homeless guys. And as a kid, I watched those guys get up from that meeting and walk out and say they would never come back again. That was the moment I felt I was called into ministry. Because I saw my dad defend the cause of those guys, those homeless people who had nothing to give. And I think those were the events that shaped me. My dad picking up homeless people to bring them to church, even though he had 8,000 people on a Sunday morning. But he would go down and bring them himself. And I said, why are you doing this? You have buses. He said, I do this because I have to prepare my heart to preach. And the only way to prepare my heart to preach is to reach out to others. So those were some of the things that kind of formed the passion in my heart to believe in the underdog and those who have been forgotten and forsaken.
My goodness. So as a kid, it was never like, you're going to do this and you're going to carry the vision and you're going to continue the legacy. You just were in the room while he did it.
That's a good way to put it. That's exactly. And,
is there a better way to teach?
More things are caught than taught. That's what I realized. Right. Yeah. Yep. I don't remember a lot of my dad's teaching and maybe a couple principles like, find a need and fill it and find a hurt and heal it and earn the right to be heard by loving people first and a few life principles. But man, it was more of just that living of the one in the midst of the thousands that were being reached.
And did he always maintain that?
Always. Still does. Still does. He's never changed. It's only gotten more as he's gotten older. He has a tremendous ability. One thing I've learned is to learn to enjoy little successes along the way.
Yep.
And that's what I've learned from him the most is he never was wanting to be anywhere. He was just always in the moment. And the ministry just began to evolve as he just gave the moment so much detail.
So if he's on the stage about to preach, he's all there. But if he's driving on the way there, he's right there with whoever's on the street.
Exactly. And at home.
Picking him up and at home.
Made every single game, never missed a sports game. Sometimes I can see him running back in the days when preachers wore suits. He'd wear a suit. He would roll up into one of my wrestling matches or basketball and he would just walk in there and he'd always find a way to make it on time. But those are the things. He just genuinely loves people. I'll never forget as a boy, there's a fan on our team, a parent, who was yelling at the referee and got kicked out of the game. And all the parents were mad at this dad, saying, "You're a bad example to your children." And he was, he wasn't the best example, but he was walking away, getting kicked out of the stadium. And my dad leaves his stands and he goes, talks to the man. And he says, "Hey, I know, sometimes you get caught up in sports and you get a little frustrated." And he goes, and then the man began to unload other things about his life that was causing him to kind of break. And my dad running to the guy that was that outcast, that dad that made a fool out of himself and loved on him. And I thought, and just kids watch stuff like that. And I realized he's always going to be a friend of the one that's been the outcast. So that's what we've learned here at the Dream Center. I've been pastoring for 27 years. It's a crazy quest because when I was 20, my dad came here looking for a pastor of an inner city church, a little building in downtown that was given to him by the Assemblies of God. And every one of the pastors didn't want to be here because the neighborhood was so rough. And my dad says, "Son, can you help me for 3 months until I find a real pastor?" And so I've been here for 27 years.
And there it started.
As I always say, we're still looking for the real pastor, but until then, we'll keep holding. A couple more decades, we'll hold the fort down. So until we find them.
So at 20, you were just like, you just had a yes? What'd you bring with you? Like, was it just a willingness? Was there a vision? Was there a cause in you already?
I didn't bring a yes.
Blood. It's obviously in your blood.
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't bring a yes. I think I brought a maybe.
Okay.
That's all I had.
Real? That's real. Yeah.
And I had 3 months. I only thought I was going to be here for 3 months, but then
were you single? You're single
I was
at this point.
Completely single. I was I was in one of the toughest neighborhoods in LA after being in a very, and I had no worship team. I had no janitors, nothing. It was just me on the desk on the sidewalk.
So did you get, I'm just trying to picture the visual. Did you just get dropped off by your family?
Dropped off by my family. Yep. My dad said, "I'll see you next week."
No.
Yes. And he,
build the church.
We shared an apartment together downtown. So I had an apartment to stay in. And then I just kind of, began to realize that everything I tried to do in the traditional sense of building a church to get Christians to come, this was a different thing. This would be a mission field. And when I moved that desk on the sidewalk, as God said, whatever I put in your hand, use it to help people. I didn't realize that the desk on the sidewalk and 3 bags of food that I bought at the liquor store down the street.
Was it like limes and chips?
Exactly, that kind of stuff. And that's all we had. And but that was the beginning. And it's not always the dream that you have on paper. Sometimes it's the dream in your heart that you don't even know that you have, that only serving can reveal. And you can serve your way into the dream that sometimes is far greater than anything you can put down on paper.
On paper.
And so the need began to dictate the call. And then it started with one little desk on the sidewalk. And then we had one house.
So when you put the desk on the sidewalk, were you discouraged or were you like, "Oh, I got a plan," or "I'm pivoting"? What's going on inside of your heart? For everybody who has landed themselves or is in a dream situation but that feels like it's not working out like it was in their head or that they put on paper.
Yeah.
What were you going through? What did you experience?
What I experienced, I really thought that if I just gave God something to work with, he would move. And rather than
faith, you had total faith for that.
Total faith. If I just give him something, if I start with something, if I start giving away something, if I didn't worry about all the things I wish I had and I just started using what I have, it would just naturally unfold. And so I stopped really thinking about the dream. I just started looking at every way that we can make life better for people. And then we bought a little weight pile and turned it into a little weight set, in a dirt parking lot.
Like working out weights?
Yeah, like for all the gang members in the neighborhood, cheap little
like come
weights. Yeah. And then they had a little wall where they could do little murals in the back for their drawings.
For the creatives. Yeah.
Yeah. So it began to, and then of course the big one was we had a house that opened up in the neighborhood that we started taking in. People had drug problems and they were living with me. And then,
they lived with you
in my house. I took in 3 people and, we started just helping them. It was our rehab program that was totally imperfect, but it was just, come to church, let's read the Bible together. And, so that set the stage really for the growth of the ministry. It's funny. The church went from 18 to 2, trying to be a success. And it went from 2 to 700, not even thinking about the word success. So I realized that it's interesting that you can serve your way into the purpose and the plan and the cause of God. And then one day, the great miracle, driving down the Hollywood freeway, I see this massive hospital, 400,000 square feet for sale. And I pull over to the side, and Paramount Studios was filming a movie there. They're going to turn it into a big old movie set.
Uh-huh.
And I just pulled over just because it said for sale. I talked to the Catholic Church that owned it and told them what we wanted to do. And they were going to sell it for $16 million back in 1994. But instead, they sold it to us for $3.9 million because they wanted our cause to be, in the community, not the movie studios.
Yes.
So just miracle after miracle began to unfold. God knows what you need more than you do. And and I think through the common serving, God opened up this massive thing that never would have happened any other way.
My goodness. Were you in your 20s still when you got that hospital, which is now the LA Dream Center?
Yes, I was 22 years old.
And 22
and we had $50,000 a year in offerings. And we had to come up with $4 million in 18 months. And everybody thought we were crazy. We were getting emails saying, you're going to lose everything. We lose our old building if we don't come up with $4 million for this one. But we just put it all on the line. And we had a couple guys that were enemies of the vision, to be honest with you. They didn't think that LA was a good investment of your time, money, and resource because they called it a wasteland or a third world country. God touched their heart. They changed their mind when they saw it. And both these guys gave $1 million each. So we had $2 million of seed money. And then God just began to touch pastors' hearts across America to make up the difference. And now 27 years later, we have 700 residents that live here, 3,000 hot meals a day being served every day. 40,000 people a week being served alone in the food ministry. So it's never ending. It's nonstop, but it's the greatest joy. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh my goodness. Was your dad always totally behind you?
Completely.
Really?
If it wasn't for him in the first 5 years, we wouldn't see this thing become a reality. And gathering up his friends and all of his people to try to help us get this going. And I told him many times, people say, man, your dad really helped you and get going. I said, absolutely. And the thing is, I never ran from that. I never said, well, I'm my own man. I realized the vision of helping people in this neighborhood needed me to utilize his friends, his contacts. It wasn't about me and doing it my own way or being my own man. It was about how can I use all the influence that God has given me in ministry to use it for someone who didn't have a voice, and the young gang member up against a police car being arrested, or the mother that's just struggling to survive in her one unit, that bedroom apartment. It was about them. So therefore, my pride had to be cast aside. And I had to use everything I possibly can to say, let's all build this thing together.
You went and slept on Skid Row. I think you have done a lot now.
Yeah.
It's practically your second home now. Side note. And then I want to hear some stories because, first of all, will you explain what Skid Row is? Because some people don't know.
Skid Row is like the homeless central of America. There's tens of thousands, literally, of people in this block radius. What happened years ago, the government basically sectioned off a corner of LA and downtown for the homeless people in the 1980s, and it never changed from there. It was literally like this whole is like is cardboard city on one side, then you walk a few blocks down, then you have the nice downtown buildings and all that. You can see the contrast literally within a 5-minute walk, but it's almost like it's just a zoned off place, kind of like what they would call, they had the chop zone, but the homeless Skid Row has been around since like the 80s, and it's even just before, and basically it's where people just go to die, or they just go to get their next fix. And so we've been down there, and so God really spoke to me one day just to go down to Skid Row and live homeless until He told me to stop. And it was my 15th year anniversary of ministry, and I felt like I needed my heart to be reborn. And it was the scariest 2 days of my life living down there, homeless in the streets of Skid Row. I saw things I never saw. People, human trafficked. I saw almost every woman lives down there had been sexually abused. Just so much trauma in 48 hours. I didn't even think I'd get through the night. But it was there where we found families that were homeless, and we decided to open up our family floor. So because of that visit and seeing families that were down there, it spurred vision.
Not just one person, like kids.
Yeah, women and children, everybody living down there, and families. And so I realized, inspiration comes on the mountaintop. Like you go to a conference, you get inspired or something like that. But for me, vision is always found in the valley of need. If I want to have vision, all I have to do is walk to where there's need, and God will show me what the vision really is.
Oh my goodness. This is so good. This is so good. Oh my goodness. So good. My experience with, I'm a past missionary. And so I love being on Clint was actually asking me, and for those listening, Pastor Matthew sent his right-hand man to us to help us launch the Dallas Dream Center, which was beyond generous. And he was asking me, what's your vision for the Dream Center? And I was like, my vision for the Dream Center is to have no part of any of the vision of it. I want to be on the streets. I want to be in the homes. I want to serve the food. And he goes, you remind me of someone else I know.
Yeah. Totally.
He was laughing at me. I was like, I don't want to be in board meetings. I don't want to be planning. I don't want to be directing. I definitely don't want to be raising money. But put me in any home with a bag of food and you will have to drag me out.
That's awesome.
I told him, I will be your best volunteer. And he was laughing and he said, that's you on the food line. He says he just has to keep people because you just want to serve the people. And that's just where your heart is. And it sounds like, if I'm hearing you right, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how you've kept your heart soft.
Exactly. Oh,
and that speaks to me because I feel sometimes in just life and what life does, my heart, you know when your heart's starting to get a little tough.
That's exactly right. No, you can literally serve your way out of your burden. You can. It's amazing. I've never left a food line ever feeling discouraged. I've never left a food line ever felt like, oh man, this really was a struggle. Never, ever, ever.
Really burnt out from this food line.
No, never.
Yeah.
I can't think of one time it's ever happened, but I can think of times where I just sat and maybe overanalyzed my life, overanalyzed my struggles, and got to the place. And everyone's different, but to me, it's like the only way for me to get out of where I am is I have got to get around people that have a greater need than I do, and to pour my life into them. And that's been the healing part, especially during this pandemic of all that's been going on.
Yeah.
God took me 26 years. I had all these conferences lined up to preach at for this year. It was like it'd be the best year ever.
Sure,
with the book release, and yet what did God do? He put me right back to where I was day one, on the blacktop with the desk and food. And put me right back into
You're just right back on
day,
concrete.
You're
outside on concrete serving the people.
And life is so bizarre. The twists and turns. And,
oh my goodness.
And
so God.
And it's interesting too. In this pandemic, though, Los Angeles, everything is locked down. Everything. I mean, I tell pastors that come speak here, I say, show up as late as possible on Thursday nights because we have our guest speakers, because there's nothing for you to do. I mean, there's no place to get your haircut. There's nothing. No restaurants, indoor, outdoor.
Wow.
Nothing. No nails. I mean, nothing. Man. So basically, everything is just you order food and it comes. And so the Dream Center has become kind of the inspiration zone for many people in the community. They drive through. One lady came through twice. I said, you came through earlier. She said, I'm coming through again. I said, why? She said, because I just want someone to celebrate me. You guys are so happy giving away the food and jumping up and down. She said, can I just come through a couple times today so that somebody can celebrate me? And I thought that is the relational side of just being there for people. And sometimes people drive through our line just to see that we're not closed down. They're like, oh, you guys are still here. Oh, good. Because 45% of the businesses up and down our neighborhood are all shut down. So people are just wanting to see something good that's standing and serving. And so this has been a great season of but you learn a lot when you see a car come through in several months. You see their car change. You see the car more run down. You see people look like they're aging going through the line of the struggles. People tell you about food that they're going to deliver to somebody who's been locked in their house for 8 months, who's never come out, and they deliver our food to them. People just lost their jobs. So it's become like a mobile drive-through food counseling center / need meeting type of place that I've never seen anything like it in my entire life.
So you don't sit around a boardroom and strategize. You see needs. Is this what I'm hearing you saying? You see needs and meet them?
Yes, I do. And I'm learning to say, because our team will go wherever I want to go. But right. I'm learning to just say, hey, this is an idea. Hear me out for 30 minutes and then let's go. But sometimes I just go. And then we have a meeting later about how do I make it work. And that's typically, and that usually works out well because sometimes you can overanalyze something before you get started and never get started. You have this great vision.
Right.
You have all these great things you want to do. And by the time you get into like a board meeting, people can pick it apart to the point where there's no structure left to it.
Yeah.
So I think there's nothing wrong with taking risk of helping people and letting it unfold as you go, because an expert is usually somebody who dared to step into uncharted territory and figure it out as they went.
Yes. Oh man. So when the kids in your neighborhood, you saw, correct me if I'm wrong, you saw they didn't have laptops and only online schooling was available. Is this right?
Yeah. See, in the midst of one need finds another. The parents are coming through in the drive-through and they're like, I'm like, where's your kids? You're supposed to be in school. Oh, we don't have a laptop. We don't have any of the, we've been online since March last year. Not one day have we been in a classroom since March.
Almost a year. Yeah.
And so these children, in the inner city, well, they're the ones that get hit the hardest because they have no resources. A lot of the parents don't speak English. They don't understand how to log them in. All these barriers and challenges. The Wi-Fi, small houses where we're getting COVID because everyone's lumped together. So we just said, look, we're going to do an outdoor school and whoever wants to show up, show up. Well, of course, in a matter of weeks, 80 kids are now in our outdoor school every day. And 9 to 2, parents are finding work because they have 5 hours away from their kids. It's just, it's remarkable. And they're out there and they got their $300 tablets that we provide for them to do all their work. And that's what I love about the church. We're not government funded for a reason. And that is so that we can move quickly and not wait upon grants to do things. And that's why I think that the greatness of the church is one of the problems I think the church entered into when this thing first happened was they were wondering like, oh, are we essential or are we not?
Right.
I'm like, no, you are essential. Act like you're essential. Clint and I talk about this as well. Act like you're essential. Know that you're essential and be confident that you're essential.
It's great.
And then just start doing things.
Needs.
And then everyone fell in line and meet the needs. And the community came along and they, it's kind of like someone who just acts like they belong somewhere. The guy that gets into a party, he just act like he was supposed act like you belong because you do. I said we've given $1.5 billion of economic aid to the community over the years. I think that's I think that's essential enough. So we just went and went for it. So this is an interesting time for the church, where people like yourselves, I see all the stuff that you guys are doing in your community. It's I think the day of kind of maybe Christian figure popularity has been changed a little bit more into just grassroots type of ministry serve.
Let it be.
And great sermons, but great application the way we live our lives as well.
That's so good. When I first visited your Dream Center, we did the normal when a group comes, we do Compton, we do the neighborhood, the food distribution and all the neighborhoods. And I remember going into Compton and, I grew up in the 90s. And so, all these like Tupac songs about Compton and right. And all and so I'm like, oh, wow, I'm going to Compton, but I'm good with it. And, to this day, Compton is one of my favorite places on earth after those experiences with your team leading us through these beautiful people.
Yes.
Like beautiful families, people, grandmas taking care of their kids so their daughter can go to, it was so beautiful. And then they took us to Skid Row and I was just, I just have such a heart for underserved, people, marginalized, all of it. And so my heart was just exploding. And I still remember we were passing out, some of the and if people don't know, you offer anyone a ride back to the facility if they want to get clean. That's right. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Anyone who wants to come gets to come.
Yeah.
Oh, tell me if this rumor is true too. When we first came, they were talking about you and how you had stayed on Skid Row and just your heart for the people. And they said that you always have a room. Yeah. Because anytime you go, is that right?
Yes, they offered me a place right on Skid Row. I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that. I might need it one day. You never know.
But I heard the Dream Center, they always leave her. If they know you're going to Skid Row, they're like, clear out a room for him because he's going to bring someone back.
Yes. And we do. We always, every time we go out, I think that's why our teams really enjoy going out because if somebody really wanted to change, we have a solution for them.
Right. It's not just here's a track.
And that's all good too.
It is. Yeah.
But to have a place where they can come to and have real life solutions really, and that takes time. I always tell Dream Centers, you're going to find the pulse of your city, what works for you. Housing is tough. It takes a lot of staff and team and all that. But eventually those who get to that place, it's a wonderful option to be able to see, people have a place to go and really have a year to rebuild. The luxury of time in our rehab program is what I think makes it special. Is it's not a 30-day panic where what am I going to do after 30 days? You have time to get through layers. You have time to find work. You have time to, finally get clean for the first time in your life. So that's kind of what all the Dream Center programs are about. Like when we find people in outreach and bring them back, they walk into a level of time to rebuild in a very expensive city, a hard city to survive. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. Nobody's in a rush to throw someone back on the street. Nobody's getting reimbursements for housing through government plans. It's just, you're here. Let's walk through life.
For as long as you need.
As long as you need to get back together again.
How many people have graduated from just the drug and alcohol rehabilitation program?
Oh, man.
It has to be so many.
I would say tens of thousands have graduated over the years for sure. I mean, we have a graduation every 3 months on stage from our rehab program. We have about 25 graduates every 3 months, or actually every month now we do that. So about, so hundreds a year, just keeps going on. And it's tough. I mean, because it's not like one of those places where it's not a flop house. It's like structure, rules, and all the things they have to get to, levels and Bible study and all that. So when they graduate, it's something special. They've accomplished something great.
What's the story? And I won't keep you much longer, but can you tell the story about the guy under the bridge?
Yeah, there's a man that was living there for
this is one of my favorites.
Yeah, he was living there for like 18 years, and he was famous for being homeless. And we tried everything to reach him. I would pull off the freeway, and I would like offer him money or anything to try to get him out of that place, because he's such a landmark there, being homeless. And one day a youth group came in town, and a teenage girl said, "Hey, I heard that guy's been homeless under the years. I'm going to go reach him." And I didn't want to discourage her dream, because I thought, man, okay, if I can't do it, what makes you think you can do it, right?
Sure.
But I did the Christian thing and said, well, praise the Lord. When you don't know what to say, praise the Lord, go for it. And she went down there and she grabbed that man and said, "Sir, you're coming to the Dream Center to get a meal." He said, "No, I'm not." She said, "Yes, you are." She literally forced him to the Dream Center food line. And there he was, and he was standing there, and he got his food, and he didn't want to change. He just wanted free food. And he took his food, went back under the bridge, did this. And I was getting mad, because we had these little Bible studies, 10-minute Bible studies before each meal people could go to, and he wouldn't show up. And finally I said, "God," I said, "this guy's just using us. He doesn't want to change. He just wants free stuff, and he just wants to take it back under the bridge." And God spoke a word to me. He said, "Keep on letting this man use you, because if you want to be a bridge of hope to the world, you've got to allow yourself to be walked on if you want to be a bridge. Let him use you. Let him get all the free stuff that he wants." And finally, one day, he said he wanted to check into our rehab program at 60-something years of age. He graduated our rehab program. Not only that, he went to Bible school, graduated Bible school, and now he's on staff at the Dream Center. In fact, I just saw him 15 minutes ago on the 14th floor walking around.
No way!
And helping others get their lives back together. So that's the beauty of staying and serving. You might not change someone overnight.
Stay and serve.
You might not change anyone in a year. It might take time. But you never know when someone's going to hit that place of rock bottom where they'll be. And I tell people that all the time. Sometimes the worst things that people can do when they have somebody in addiction is to lecture them and put them down. Keep the bridge alive. Keep the relationship alive. Because there just might be a day where you're the only person they feel they can go to start that pathway to freedom again.
Man, it's so good. I just love that story.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how many you have like that too. But you have thousands of those.
We have police dropping guys off in handcuffs and chains and saying, "I don't want to put them to prison. Will you guys take them?" So it's happening all the time here. The police have a wonderful relationship with us, and I think the Dream Center has really helped them, because they have been able to be the good guy in many cases, where they can bring people here and say, "Look, I don't want to put you in prison, but for 10 years for your offense, but you need to give yourself a year to this program."
Man.
So it's helped the police have alternatives and solutions. They come here all the time. They find families in need. They bring them here to get food. So the church can be a wonderful bridge of resource between a lot of the distrust between the police and the community by just having solutions and opportunities for them.
When I was visiting, and we visited the church service, and I remember looking around and being like, there's Louis Vuitton bags next to literal plastic bags that people walked in with. And I was like, oh, this is the best place I've ever been. This is as good as it gets right here. I mean, because you don't separate the two.
No,
And I'm guessing your people know that by now.
Yeah, but that's
You might walk in with your Louis Vuitton and you might be sat right next to somebody who's got all their possessions on their lap. And it was just the coolest.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I think the neat thing about that is in the beginning, I tried to build a church a certain way. And finally, God just spoke to me and said, just be who you are. Tell everyone we're going to bring in the crazies from the streets. We're going to bring in everyone and those who are hurting and broken and just act like it's normal. Don't say this is a big step. We need all of you to change your hearts. And
that's great.
It was just this is the gospel. This is the way it is. And this is the way we're going to be.
Kingdom.
If this isn't the right kind of church for you, then that's totally fine. But just be who you are and celebrate who you are and be confident in that. And I think that's the most important thing I learned.
Did your church respond pretty well?
Oh, yeah. Very well.
Yeah.
They
sounds like they were kind of
as many problems Los Angeles has, there's a lot of lack of moral stability that there is, in a sense, a blank slate on how to build a church. And that's one of the good things about it is that you have the ability to kind of do things, and people tend to, in their openness, be open to many things like a church like that. Now, some of the frustrations we get on the foundational level is what they perceive as being Christian is a little bit different, but there's some good along with this kind of blank slate to mold a church into a melting pot of many different types of people.
Did you raise your kids doing all this with you?
All of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter goes down to South Central. My son goes down to the food line. They probably come now at least once a week. They just, after online school, they come down and help us and get on the food line. So they love it.
Man. So it's in their blood too. Do you see that?
Oh, definitely.
Well?
I do. I do. And especially, I see a lot of my son too. He really observes things and watches and sees the attitude behind it. He'll look into the storyline of people's lives. And I see it as much as in him more than even my daughter. And she's out there just energy, just serving everyone. But I can feel like he's kind of looking deeper into people's hearts to some degree, which is kind of an interesting thing.
We took a mission trip to Cambodia years ago, and one of the girls from our city had never even seen a homeless person because of where we're in a suburb that, polices it. And so she grew up here, went to high school here. And then we take her through the border between Thailand and Cambodia in Poi Phet, and it was just it was a lot for her. And at first, it's uncomfortable. I'm coming at you with a question here, prefacing it. But great. At first, it was super uncomfortable for her. And then, because it was scary.
Yeah.
If you haven't been around it, it's scary when somebody doesn't talk, if somebody acts, out of their mind, or if somebody's on heroin in front of you, or if somebody is just if you haven't grown up with it, like you did, it can be really daunting. And so for people who have a heart for it, but are intimidated by stepping out in serving, especially just low needs, underprivileged communities, because they feel like maybe, I'm from privilege, so I have nothing to offer except money type of thing. What would you say? What would you say to that? How do you kind of overcome that mindset?
I think you just got to keep showing up and doing it because,
do it. Yeah.
Perfect love casts out all fear. And what you fear usually grips you immediately. But if you keep showing up those circumstances, you'll start loving the very things you used to fear. Yeah. And that only comes through continuing to put yourself amongst the need and then you'll see things. So I used to fear everything, but I kept showing up anyways. And then I began
you were scared? You would be scared?
Terrified.
Really?
Every day I'd be serving people. I'd be terrified.
Really?
Especially when you go to a different city where the surroundings are different. But then one day I'd say, God, I'm just going to start loving the people that I fear. And that scripture really is true that perfect love does cast out all fear. And there was no room for fear anymore because I see beyond the struggle and the manifestations of people that were acting out and begin to just say, look, I had nothing really to say, but I could just keep being a presence in people's lives. Then they start opening up and talking. And then we take guys into rehab that were declared to be forever damage or mental illness. Yeah. And that's true. There are a lot of it, but a lot of times people just haven't had a year of momentum in their life of anything good. And I've seen them healed. I'm like, oh my goodness, this person was labeled to be forever scarred and damaged.
Yeah.
And they're not completely normal in 10 months of just having some good people in their life. So, yeah, when I put myself in a fearful situation, I close my eyes. I say, Lord, help me to love right now what I fear. And that changes everything.
That's really, really good. I remember being on Skid Row because I had done a lot of overseas missions, but I hadn't done a lot of, the LA and the street ministry. And Skid Row I fell in love with it just because I love that gritty grassroots. And then I went over to what's that really nice beach? Like probably 20 minutes from y'all. Is it Venice?
Manhattan Beach or Hermosa
Venice,
Beach. Yeah.
Something with V, like Ventura or Venice or something. And I remember everybody's yelling around me and bicycles are swarming by and everybody's just
Venice
high
Beach,
energy. Yeah. Venice, okay, the beach, yeah. And I was like, oh, please, I got to get back to Skid Row.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so wild, but what can appear so scary originally at times or so odd can become quite comforting.
Exactly.
and can become quite beautiful. And it's what you said, you never walk away bummed after being on the streets with the people, serving the people. And I think we live in a time where there is rampant self-obsession, rampant self-absorption, rampant depression and rampant anxiety. And I've had anxiety. This is the culture we find ourselves in. And what I just love that you just keep coming back to is it's not even necessarily about finding this huge dream and purpose. It's meeting the need and serving the person in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. It really
it works.
It does. And sometimes a dream will take on a form of unlike anything you ever experienced. You'll come in and say, this is where I'm going. And then you start helping one need and your life starts going this direction. Like Jesus, he kept going different directions. People wanted him to go. Yep. But then all of a sudden you realize, I never realized I had a heart for people who had drug addiction, but I helped one person. There's so many talents and abilities in us that you will only know unless you unleash yourself into the world. And then you realize, my skills, what you thought was your skill set or your great strength, or even your strength finder, people say Mr. Strength, you might even find that there's something so different about you that's in you that only getting out of yourself can reveal. And that's what we've seen. It's man, I feel like my strength is street ministry, and yet I've never used drugs or drug addiction. I've never used. Right. So that's a big misconception. Is well, I don't understand the need, or I haven't grown up in the need, so I can't meet the need.
So
I have found people are just looking for someone to love them unconditionally and not to leave them.
Yeah,
that's what I've learned in 27 years. I thought it was about understanding and relating.
That's it.
It's not. God doesn't want us to be relevant. He wants us to be revolutionary, and that's what we always say here. And revolutionary is staying through the ages when everyone else leaves them. That's the language that communicates to everybody, and that's what we tried to live in the strength of just not leaving this building. Everybody wants this building. This is a $100 million building now. That's what I mean.
I can't imagine.
They just bought a hospital that was actually less valuable than this one for $110 million. Governments want it. They want to repurpose this building. Everybody wants it. And so it's very valuable real estate. I'm looking at the Hollywood freeway right now. Cars just sits right there on a very famous freeway. But the call of God is not for sale, and the people that are hurting can't sell up a community in 27 years. And we're not going to do it. We're just going to keep meeting the need and supporting the comeback.
Supporting the comebacks. Pastor Matthew, thank you. I think this is encouraging me personally that it's not a point we arrive at. It's looking around. What's in front of me? What do I have?
Exactly.
And how do I, and that anybody can do that.
Yeah.
Anybody can do that. And sometimes I think we in Western Christianity, it's all about the big. I will be a mega church pastor.
Yeah.
I will be, I will save all of Thailand or whatever, and it's oh man, but God knows what he's put in us. He knows the cause.
Yes.
And what's in front of us. And I am just fired up. I'm ready to tag on with Clinton D. I think they might be going down the Dallas Dream Center this afternoon. I'm ready to tag along and just go visit because this is so good. And this is what everybody's looking for, mental health, and everybody's looking for peace. And this is a part of it for us. This is a part of it, is serving the people. And thank you for living that.
Oh, thank you.
For so long and being a huge inspiration to us. And I can't wait to see all God does with the Dream Center. And we're so grateful for the LA Dream Center and all you've done. And I know I didn't hear a lot of the stories of the obstacles, but I've been around at least enough to know. I bet there were a lot.
There are. And there's many times I've wanted to quit the journey. And I literally was like ready to go. But my dad used to always tell me, he said, never be discouraged if you want to quit. He said, wanting to quit is a sign of success because it means that you have something to quit. Only successful people have the desire to want to quit. So he said, and then he always says, you could be a want-to-quitter as long as you know that you'll never quit. So he said, you can have the luxury of wanting to quit.
I love your dad. I'm like,
as long as you know that you'll never quit, you can have the luxury of wanting to. I thought, that's an interesting comment. So yeah,
man.
It's in the Bible, same way. People wanted to quit, and then this word of the Lord came to Jeremiah a second time. It's just the humanity of us all. But again, God will usually send you the encounter that you need to keep you going, and it's always in the form of people or someone that said your life was changed. You're like, man, I can't give up now. So,
and some nights it's 2 nights on Skid Row.
Yeah, well, that's crazy. It's what's happening. Skid Row is unbelievable, and the homeless are just going through the COVID and now with just all the people living on the streets. I think it's double homelessness. I've never seen more. I mean, we go across the street right outside our church and minister, and people will also not take your housing, and you just keep showing up. You try to help them and just be there for them. It's either meeting them in their world in the tent or telling them to come into your world. But either way, you just keep trying and doing your best.
Yep. Well, thank you, Pastor Matthew. This is so good. I'm going to let you go because I know rather than share all of the wisdom that you have, I know you just want to be on a food line now.
I'm actually going. Yeah, it's like 10:50.
I know.
11 o'clock.
Yeah, I got to get you to your food line.
Thank you.
We love you. We honor you. Love to your family. Stay safe, and we'll talk soon.
All right. God bless you. Thank you.
You too.